Hey, Monica.
Oh, okay, sorry. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you feeling now?
Oh, I'm much better now. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, every day I'm seeing more improvements. Preeti's here. Hi, good morning.
Hi Malvika, hi Monica.
Hi.
Let me know if you can see my screen. I'm just going to leave it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, we'll give
Hi,
every-
Akanksha. Okay. Malvika, let's start off.
Yes, just a
Okay.
sec.
Akanksha, is it audible to you? Yes. Okay, to join.
All right. Monica, should we wait for the others? Are they joining us or are they going to be late?
No, we'll start off. I'll anyhow send the recording. Harshit won't be joining us.
Okay. Got it. All right. Okay. And Akanksha, I saw you for a bit and then you went off. But anyway, good morning. Thanks for joining Dog Obedience 101. My name's Malvika and I've been a canine trainer for more than 10 years now. And my training primarily happened in California. And I've just moved to India a couple of years ago and been training dogs on the side whenever I find time to. But my specialization largely is on mental stimulation in dogs. And to sort of help dogs acclimatize to families with young children or with senior citizens. So it's more about getting them to be more comfortable behaving well in a house, right? But I do train a lot of dogs from 30 days old all the way to 13 years also. So happy to take any questions you have. Like in this class, we do have specific topics that we cover every week. But please feel free to ask me any questions you have, any issues that you're facing with your dogs, and we'll try and address them. I don't have far too many slides in these classes. I just have a couple of them, but that sort of drives a discussion. I would love it if we kept it interactive because I enjoy and thrive on questions from my fellow peer parents. So I have 4 dogs of mine. They're all rescues, indies, going around somewhere right now. But if you have any breed specific questions also, I'd be happy to answer that because over the period of this class, you'll realize it's so important to understand the breed because not every dog, Doberman is not the same as a Saint Bernard or a Beagle or a Corgi or an Indie. They're all different. And we have to learn how to work with those breeds. Right. So this is Dog Obedience 101 for dogs that are 10 months and above. And the reason I've chosen 10 months and above is because any dog that's lesser than 10 months is primarily a puppy or a young adolescent. But the teenage rebellious years that could go all the way up to 3 years of age will last, starting around 9 or 10 months of age. So it takes a different sort of structure and a different routine to be able to work with those dogs, unlike the puppy stages, which is a very different life stage for them. All right. So the first session, largely is to talk about body language. A lot of people ask me why body language, but believe me when I say that is probably the most important thing you need to know about your dogs. If you figure out your dog's body language, then you pretty much have your dog sorted out. You know exactly what your dog's trying to tell you and why your dog is the way it is. So before we proceed, though, I would love to have some background about your dogs, and if there's something in particular that you want to address in this class, I'd be happy to take some feedback initially, so I can tailor the class based on your requirements as well. All right. So who wants to go first? Just some brief about your dogs, how old they are, breed, what you're dealing with.
I don't mind.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Pooja. I have a 14-month-old Cocker Spaniel. His name is Cinnamon. And
Sorry, what's the
the
name?
reason I'm joining this course is because Cinnamon.
Cinnamon. Okay.
Because he's golden, so it's Cinnamon.
Okay. Go on.
So the reason for me to join this course is that he's just a very high, excited, angsty dog. Where like if you tell him something, he does not want to listen to you. I think it's what he said, the rebellion stage, and he knows what he's doing is wrong. Not like he doesn't know that barking when people come home or like sitting on the sofa, these things are wrong. He knows them, but he still do that. So he's like, I know I can get away with it. So yeah, and plus I live in Meerut, so there are no good trainers, and so I decided to do this myself.
Super.
And he's
have you
basic
had
train, like he knows pause, sit, meaning he understands stay. So yeah.
Oh, what just happened? Pooja. Oh, there she is. Pooja, are you there?
I'm so sorry. I think I lost you.
No worries. No worries. Go on.
Yeah. So as I was saying that the problem is that like even though he's a 14-month-old, he's still full on his leash. He's still like wants to run away all the time. Even if you open the door, like if someone comes home, we have no option but to keep him in a different room because he'll just go ballistic over that new person and bark and climb and all of that process. So yeah, it's just about like having a dog which is more suited. And we have a little baby at home now. He's about the baby's about 3 months old, so they're gonna grow up together. So now it's a little more scary.
Yeah. Oh, good. I think this is the first time I'm actually having a client with a baby in the house. That's something that I do specifically.
It's going to be the most challenging thing we do together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that it does require a certain amount of structure that you have to inculcate in the house. So, question for you: has Cinnamon been home since the pup, or is it a more recent?
Has been what? Has been home?
Is he more a recent addition, or have you had him since he was in the kennel?
No, we've had him since he was about 45 days old. Okay. So he's been in the house for about a year now. And that's how we planned it. We planned it in a way that he's comfortable in the house before the baby comes in. So he was about a year old when the baby came into the house.
Understood. And another question is he intact? Which means, have you neutered him, or is it still?
Not yet. I've been contemplating, but because it's so cold where I am, we've now delayed it to probably the next 1 or 2 months. But it is in my plan.
Okay.
I did have a discussion with the school team on their Instagram that whether I should go ahead with this.
Okay. No, I'm not asking.
Yeah.
I'm not here to tell you what to do or not to do. I'm just asking because some behaviors are related to hormones and some are not.
I definitely think he'll calm down a lot more once he's neutered. But well.
Okay. So one other question for you, Pooja. What's the level of exercise that
So Cinnamon goes for a walk in the morning, which is a more light walk because that time he's not really into the motor run. And in the evening, he goes for a nice long 45-minute walk. And in between, in the day, during lunchtime, post lunch, we have someone to go play with him in the garden. So he's running around for the next 10-15 minutes. He wants to go out and like relieve himself after lunch. So he has,
Pooja,
I do feel like he needs a little more exercise.
There's a lot of disturbance going
Sorry?
on. Maybe it's not clearly audible.
I know, I'm so sorry. I'm somewhere else, so like I can't really change my.
Don't worry, I can still hear you. Don't worry about it. Keep talking. No
okay. So the thing is with him, even if you give him like a lot of amount of exercise, he'll just sit, rest for 10 minutes, and then he'll be back to his naughtiness. Okay. So we tried that. Then we tried to tire him out.
Well,
but that's not a thing with him.
case that a tired dog is a happy dog or a well-behaved dog, right? But
Yeah.
a dog that doesn't get enough rest is definitely a misbehaving dog. Your dog needs to get a certain amount of rest. Do you estimate how long your dog sleeps in a day? What's this?
Oh, he sleeps a lot.
Okay, so
He sleeps a lot because he's very chill in this environment now. He's used to everyone.
okay. So are you looking
So
at upwards of 68 hours of sleep?
you said 8 hours, right?
16.
16 hours. Do you think Cinnamon sleeps for 16 hours?
Awake
No.
for about 8 hours in a day.
Yeah, no. He definitely sleeps much lesser.
Okay.
Yeah. 12 hours. We're saying about 12 hours. He sleeps 12 to 14 hours, but not 16 hours for sure. Because even at night, he'll wake up. He'll sleep for 2 hours, take a nice nap, wake up, go around the house,
Sure.
and he's just wandering around the house, and then again he'll go back to sleep. He
Okay.
keeps doing that because I think he feels a lot like a guard dog for some reason. Initially he was in our room with us, but now he sleeps outside in his own bed. So he definitely feels like he's responsible for the house and he's supposed to go around, or he's responsible for the baby and he's supposed to take care of the baby, all that.
Okay. All right. Understood. Okay. I think I have enough for today, but I'll keep asking you questions as the class progresses. Feel free to keep adding on to your problem
Yeah,
statement.
and I'm so sorry if I have to drop in between and catch up on the recorded session because unfortunately I'm just out somewhere else.
All right. Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Pooja. All right. Who wants to go next?
Okay, I'll go next then. So,
Yes. So should I call you Kirti or Anand or Arya?
so all of these are my names, so you can call me anything. There's another name Bittu also, so you can call me that.
All right. I'll call you Kirti. Just go for the first name.
Right.
Yes, Kirti, tell me.
So we have a 11-month-old golden retriever who is always beside me like this. So he's like
He's your shadow. All right.
yeah. So if I'm in my house, he's always following me, sitting beside me, or lying down on the floor near my foot. So we've done a basic obedience training with him when he was like 3 months old. So he's good on walks most of the time. But since now he's in the teenage phase, those leash walking and everything is more or less gone for a toss. So he's super excited. So he was socialized. He meets like 10-15 kids in the evening. He meets aunties, uncle, maids, guards, everyone in the society. And if you count, you can 40 to 50 people every day. So he's happy dog. He's super excited. His excitement level is like way over the top. So the problem nowadays that we are facing is obviously he's now tending towards pulling when he's super excited. Whenever we pass through a park, then he's like going all over the place and running, and he wants to just go because in the park he's off leash.
Okay.
So most likely that's the reason for it, right?
Yeah.
And whenever he says he sees someone who's nearer and dearer to him, he goes all out. He'll be jumping and dancing and running around. Even if someone comes to a place, he's behaving well till like 5-10 minutes. After that, he's jumping on the sofas and beds and everywhere. But after 10-15 minutes, he's all calm and then chills besides the person.
Yeah.
So if you engage with him, then he's like super excited. If you don't, then he'll be like, "Acha, theek hai, chalo."
Okay. And I forgot, what's his name? I didn't get the name.
Woofy, WOOFE.
Got it. Woofy. All right.
So the main, so my mother is a cancer patient. So she's a senior citizen. So the problem that we are facing is obviously her level of energy doesn't match with his energy levels, right? So what he tends to do is he tends to grab her sweaters and shawls and then tries to pull her. So if she holds that thing, he will pull harder, right? And eventually he will then try to grab her arm and hands. So we are struggling with that part mainly. Okay. Other than that, obviously he's a golden retriever. He tends to pick things up, right? He tends to take some random sock, random cloth and run away. And when we're outdoors, now he's settled down. Initially, he used to, pick chips out of the packet that was thrown on the roads. But gradually he has understood. So obviously we got him trained as well. So now if we give him a stern no, he will not look at it. He will
Okay.
eventually move forward. But he has some strange fetish with those gunk from the drain. Those some
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
he has caught hold of them like twice, and it was like a serious fight, getting things out of his mouth, and he like tightened his grip, and he was all black, and everything was on his face. So such things have also happened. So
Okay,
there
so
are
he's a
times,
mouthy dog. Okay.
so there are times when he's like a cow, behaving very well, going very calmly, ginger walk and all. But when his adrenaline is pumping, he's like all over the place.
Got
And
it.
since now, so there are like 2 female dogs as well in our locality. So whenever he sees them, he is like going crazy.
Hmm.
Obviously, we are considering to neuter him as soon as possible
Yeah.
whenever the vet suggests us.
Got it. So another question is again the exercise. What's the level?
So in the morning, he's out for like 40-45 minutes. In the evening also, same duration. He runs, he walks. Then we go for car ride also on a regular basis.
Okay.
And in the night, so basically, more or less, we go out 3 times in a day. The third time is only a 10-minute walk just to relieve himself. Other than that, it's like 40-45 minutes.
Okay. Understood. Again, how much rest does he get in a day?
In the day, he might sleep for a bit, but overall, if you consider, he is sleeping for 12 to 14 hours at night.
All right. Okay.
In the night, we sleep around 11, we are up by 6. So after that, he only sleeps for like in the morning, half an hour, 1 hour after we are back from our walks, maybe after having his meal. Then maybe in the afternoon, 1 or 2 more hours. That's about it.
Okay. Got
So
it.
the thing is, if we are moving in the house, if we are doing something, then he'll be walking. If we are settled, he'll be resting.
Okay. Understood. All right. Okay. So you basically have a true blue golden retriever, high energy, excitable dog, mouthy dog. Okay, we'll work on that. I'll explain why some things happen for this particular breed, and then you probably be able to do a few more things on the side to keep him more engaged. Right? We'll do that. Thanks, Kirti. Yeah.
Malika, I'm so sorry, but can I add something?
Yes, yes, please do.
Was adding. So that's a problem that we face with Cinnamon also. Other than the obsession that he has with masks these days, for some reason he wants to run away with anything that he can find in anybody's. So he's that intelligent that he can even go into your pocket to take out something, and it can be anything. It can be a matchbox, it can be a mask, it can be something you were holding.
Okay.
He has literally torn apart expensive shawls of people. So that's definitely an issue. And now, obviously, initially when he was getting used to the baby, he was running away with a lot of the baby stuff. But now that has calmed down a little bit. But he will find any opportunity that if that thing is there, even if he's sensitized to it, he will still want to come and like try and pick up that thing. You have to be just fast enough. You have to be super fast than him.
Got it.
And I think it's more of a attention-seeking behavior. Like, say, if you're playing with the baby, he'll try and find a way to like take something and run because he knows you'll run after him. You'll like lure him with something and try to take it out of his mouth. And all of this is not the problem. The problem is now he thinks that every time he growls, he can get away with it. So every time you try to take it out of his mouth, he will not do anything, but he tries to growl at you. So if he's entered, say, the baby's room and we try to take him out, he will growl so much that you will actually back off because he's really trying to scare you that I'm going to stay here and you can't do anything about it. And I think he feels like if I scare you, you will get scared.
Okay.
So
Question for you then, has he done anything where he's protective about the baby or protective about some things? Are you noticing any patterns there, like his bed perhaps? Anything that you're seeing?
Yeah, definitely. He tries to be around the baby a lot. He wants to stand right where the baby is. And if someone else is holding the baby, he does not like it. But this feature of him wanting to do what he wants is not just with the baby. So if there's some other room that, we don't want him to go to, or if he's already been and we're not letting him come inside, he will just howl his way outside that you have to get me in. And then if you try to take him out, the only way is for my husband to just literally pick him up. And even if he's growling, my husband just says, I don't care about you, I'm just going to still throw you out. Otherwise, he really actually sometimes tries to snap. So he has scratched all of us at least once by mistake, because he tries to growl and snap. And in that process, actually, sometimes his teeth hurt us. So he does not realize that,
Okay.
or probably he does realize that I can get away if I do this. Nobody will be able
No,
to.
he absolutely knows that. He's training you guys that every time I growl, you
Exactly.
have to back off. That's exactly what he's doing.
And either you trick him, or you find intelligent ways to get him excited and be like, oh, let's go somewhere else, let's go somewhere else. And then he'll just be like, okay, let's go somewhere else. And then that somewhere else is basically nothing.
Okay.
But yeah, those are the issues, which with the baby, as the baby starts crawling and all, it's going to get so tough to handle both of them, because neither are going to listen actually.
Yeah. Okay. This is certainly something I want to spend a little more time with you talking about, because this is not something that Cinnamon's going to outgrow. Okay. In fact, now is the time for you to start teaching him boundaries. Setting rules, setting boundaries in the house is absolutely essential. And by that, I don't mean tying him up or restraining him anywhere else, but it is about teaching him what's right and what's not. And for that, you need to have a more structured day. I think what sounds like both Woofy and Cinnamon, one thing in common is that they have gotten their way by misbehaving. So they've, like you rightly said, it's attention-seeking behavior. It starts from there, but then it turns very quickly into a behavior where the dog feels this entitlement that I will do whatever I feel like, and it's my house, my rules, my play. And from then on, it's a slippery slope, right? Depending on the genetics of the dog, it's nature and nurture at this point. Depending on the underlying genetics or the behaviors that we have taught our dogs, they will sort of snap, or they will sort of just say like, okay, I'm just having fun, man, I'm just pulling your whatever it is. But it really comes down to how we sort of cut them out right there and show them what a better alternative behavior is. Most of the times what we do as pet parents is we tell the dogs no. Dogs are told, no, this is not what you're supposed to do, but we never follow it up. Very rarely have I seen parents follow it up with, what is it I want you to do instead? Very similar to how we raise children, right? I have both my kids, since the day they were born, they've been around dogs. But I have also been teaching my children as well on what rules and boundaries exist for them in terms of the pets. And the same thing goes for the pets as well. But there has to be structure in the house, and you cannot allow either the human or the pet to have its way. So that is certainly something we will have to address, because this is not something that's.
Can I ask you one more thing, Malvika, in the same scheme of things?
Yeah.
So all of us are we play very normally with the Cinnamon, but my husband is a rough housing play with him. That's just how they play. That's just how they've played from day one. They both just rough each other up. And that's their kind of love. Does that add to the aggressiveness of a dog, or do you think probably he thinks that that's okay to do, so that probably that's okay to do with everyone else?
No. So rough housing really doesn't matter much in terms of this particular behavior addressing. What happens with rough housing is the puppy will not, in puppyhood, right? They would not be taught that biting is not okay. When you're playing rough, a pup would normally want to mouth and to sort of grab hold of a hand, because that's how dogs play. And you're playing rough with a dog, the mouthing behavior never goes away. Okay, but that doesn't mean that it's going to lead to aggression. It doesn't mean that it's going to lead into a snapping behavior. It's just that the dog will not learn the right playing etiquette. That's it. And when you have a younger child in the house, the dog really can't discern between older, younger person. It will mouth and it will put its hands on things that probably would hurt a child, just because of what they've been taught.
No, but he's become that smart to know that none of us do that with him. So he'll never play like that with us anymore.
That's typically how it is. But when a new addition comes into the pack, but if he doesn't know the right playing etiquette, then he is going to misbehave.
And the baby can't say no to him. Like, we can say, okay, no, you're biting me, I don't want to play with you. But the baby won't be able to do that.
And what the baby will do is every time he mouths the baby or puts his mouth on it, he is going to get a wail out of it, or he will hear a cry or some such thing. He gets a response. And that is an encouragement of that behavior. So dogs, unfortunately, a lot of people go around saying every time a dog bites you, you say, ow, and then the dog will stop biting. Very rarely, to be honest, I've less than a percentage of the dogs that I've worked with have responded to an ow when somebody bites. Okay, that really never happens. In my case, I've very rarely seen it happen. So when a baby wails in that manner, the dog really has no idea that they're hurting a child. Instead, you have to have certain stations, and those are called reward stations around the house. You have to have tethering stations. You have to have a dog safe zone, like a dog zone itself, a place where the dog feel comfortable and doesn't feel infringed upon. I'll touch upon this right over the course of time, but it's good to know that you mentioned he snaps, and there are some things that I'd want you to practice right now, just to teach him. The growling or the stern warnings just not going to work with me, but we will address that. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so sorry I'm taking up so much of everybody
No
else.
problem. Absolutely. Sorry. Yeah. So Akanksha, are you there?
Hi,
Hey. Yes. Tell me.
Akanksha. I have a 11-month-old dog. His name is Coco.
Coco. Okay.
Actually, I am much more comfortable in Hindi. Can I talk in Hindi?
Yes. Please. I don't speak well. If I speak in Hindi, you don't know which language I'm talking, but I comprehend. I understand. So go ahead.
तो कोको क्या है कि बाहर जाने से डरता है, मतलब जैसे गाड़ी, कोई भी न्यू पीपल जिसको दिखते हैं तो ये डरता है और वॉक्स पे भी नहीं जाता है.
Okay. All right.
जी.
And Coco is what breed?
Coco mixed breed, Indie and Spitz.
Oh, Spitz mix. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Okay.
So, जब ये 3 to 4 months का था तो तब ये वॉक्स पे जाया करता था. ओके.
हाँ.
हाँ जी. तो ये वॉक्स पे जाया करता था, फिर सडनली इसको पता नहीं क्या हुआ, ये कार्स वगैरह सभी चीज़ों को देख के भागने लगा. बस. और जब बाहर लेके जाते थे तो ये इतना साउंड मतलब ऐसे करता था जैसे रो रहा हो. हाँ जी. तो ये बाहर ही नहीं जाता है, वॉक्स पे ही नहीं जाता है, घर पे ही रहता है पूरे टाइम.
Okay. And how is he with people? If you have visitors coming home or strangers, how is he?
He start barking just, मतलब डरता है, बहुत ज़्यादा डरता है.
Okay. All right. So what does he do in the day? If Coco's home, what does he normally do?
एट द मॉर्निंग हमारे यहाँ स्ट्रीट है छोटा सा.
हाँ.
मतलब छोटी ही गली है तो उसमें ये दौड़ता खेलता रहता है, उतने से ज्यादा आगे नहीं जाता.
Okay.
एंड फिर ब्रेकफास्ट के बाद मेरा छोटा भाई है, उसके साथ खेलता है, फिर सो जाता है. शाम को मेरे साथ खेलता है, पापा साथ खेलता है.
And when you say he plays, what does he play normally? How does he play? What?
Like fetch.
Fetch. Okay.
And yes, like.
Has he shown any behavior where he has snapped at you, like in the family? Has he sort of been a little nervous around family members themselves, or is he just comfortable with family members?
He's comfortable with family members. He's
Okay.
just not comfortable with strangers and vehicles. Like जब कोई अचानक से आवाज आए तो he get too afraid.
So Akanksha, where did you get him from? Akanksha, where did you get Coco from? Can you hear me? Oh, lost her. Just wait. Ah, there she is. Akanksha, you there?
Yes, sorry.
No, no problem. Tell me. So where did you get him from?
When he was 1 month old, we get it from the shop, pet shop nearby.
Oh, pet shop. Okay, got it. Did you get a chance to meet his mother or other siblings,
No.
like brothers or sisters?
No.
Okay.
तो शॉप वाले ने सिर्फ फोटो शो किया था हमें कि ये पेट है और ये दूसरे सिटी से उसको यहाँ पर लेके आए थे. So
Okay, got it. And when you first brought him, was he sick? Did he have any
No.
illness, any such thing?
No.
He was fine. Okay.
Yes.
All right. And you said he's 11 months old.
Yes.
So does he go pee and poop outside the house, or is it inside? What's his routine like?
He sits inside.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So do you, if I understand correctly, you want to now start taking him outside. You want
Yes.
him to be comfortable around people. Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Done. There is certainly some things that we could do.
Yes. And from some days he's starting being so मतलब aggressive. He sleeps beside me. And जब भी जैसे कोई moment होता है सोते में मेरा ही, तो वो bite करने लग जाता है.
Whom does he bite?
फैमिली मेंबर्स को ही साथ में सोता है बेड पर.
हाँ.
तो जैसे ही पोजीशन चेंज करते हैं या कुछ भी करवट लेते हैं, तो उसको डिस्टर्ब होता है, तो उससे वो गुस्सा हो जाता है और बाइट करने लग जाता है.
Oh, I see. And has he done that to you as well?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Got it. And has he always slept with you?
Yes, always.
And this is a new development though.
Yes, yes, yes. This is new.
Okay. And is he intact? I mean, is he neutered or he's still?
No, he's not yet.
He's not neutered. Okay. All right. In your particular case, Akanksha, I would say if you were even thinking of neutering him, let's pause, okay? Don't work on getting him neutered just yet, all right? If you were thinking about it. Just some things that you've mentioned that makes me feel like if you do neuter him, you might just push him over the edge, okay? So just some things to think about, and we'll discuss that as well. One of the classes, we certainly address this topic, all right? Cool, got it. So basically, Coco is sort of a nervous dog, and a dog that gets easily startled, like if he's sleeping and he gets woken up, all right? Okay. Anything else?
No, not.
All right, okay, super, thank you. I think I have a fair idea. And, you know, one of the things that I certainly want to have you guys practice, there's one exercise that will benefit everybody here, and I'll address that towards the end of the class, okay, on how to keep the dogs engaged. But thank you. I have made a note of all of these. Okay, all right. So let's get started. Dog Obedience 101, and we're going to get into body language. So I really don't have to tell you much about body language. It's basically trying to understand what our dogs are communicating, right? A lot of people say, oh, it's a mute animal, they can't speak, I feel sorry for them. And like, no. Dogs tell us exactly what they're feeling, what they're thinking through their body language and through their barks and their vocalizations. We just need to learn to understand what it is. Most importantly, I do not want any of you to humanize your dogs. Your dogs are a different species. They are not human dogs. Don't project your human emotions on them. All right. And in this class, you'll also understand when I talk about guilt, or I talk about shame, or I talk about, a sort of happiness or sadness, all of those things, that dogs will exhibit or communicate that in a very different manner, unlike how we do. Okay. So it is important for us to understand what are the main key elements you have to see in a dog to understand what the dog's telling you. And some things that a lot of trainers don't talk about, but I want you guys to just, be aware of, is something that we call calming signals in dogs. Whether you have a really excitable, happy, jumpy, prancy dog at home, which I think 2 of your dogs are, or if you have a nervous dog at home, which Coco is, you will still see your dogs exhibit calming signals. And these are signals in dogs which are basically telling them, calm down, come down into a very calm state of mind. Please, I don't want you to be running all around, because dogs generally are animals that like to stay even tempered. Okay. Dogs don't want to be too excitable all the time. They don't want to be too nervous all the time. They're a breed, they're a species that generally likes to stay calm. All right. We have to learn to get our dogs to stay in a calm temperament. Nothing that we do should actually get the dog to be in an excitable or a nervous manner. And that's on us. No excuses, right? So when you talk about nature versus nurture, nature is the genetics, whatever the genes the dogs have, right? You can't avoid that. If some things, it's like a pick of the draw. You get what you get, right? There's a nature element aside, but nurture takes a majority stake of this as well in a dog's behavior. And nurture comes down to, how do I give my dog structured time? How do I make sure I'm stimulating my dog's breed instincts? Okay, I can't expect a retriever to go sniffing like a spaniel or going and chasing after things like an indie does. But I can't expect the spaniel to love a game of fetch like how a retriever would. Every breed is different, and we have to work with the breeds that we have, mixed breeds even. All right. So today we're going to understand a little more about body language. And when we talk about body language, there are 5 main parts that you have to look at any given point in time to understand what the dog is saying. Most of the times, what people tell me when they get a dog into the clinic where they're saying, my dog bit somebody, or my dog was, surprised me, she snarled, or he lunged at someone. Like, why were you surprised? And they say, oh, but his tail was wagging. Yeah, I thought he was friendly. His tail was wagging and he was pulling me towards this person. So I thought he wanted to say hi. And I'm like, okay, did you observe the ears? Did you observe the mouth? Did you see how the shoulders were? And they're like, no, I didn't pay attention to that. I'm like, yes, because dogs don't communicate through just one body part. Like us, when we're smiling, we smile, it reaches our eyes, we show our teeth, we loosen our body. All of that happens when we say we're happy, we're communicating with someone pleasantly. Dogs, in a very similar manner, show all 5 different body parts in a certain way. Okay, so never make a mistake of just looking at a dog's pair of ears or just the tail or just the eyes to tell me what the dog's feeling. We have to program ourselves to look at all these 5 body parts and tell what the dog is feeling. And when you figure out this method, right, when you look at all 5 body parts, you will know very quickly when your dog has that mischievous mood in itself. You will be able to preempt, which is stop the dog from misbehaving. You will be able to correct the dog from snapping or snarling. You will be able to tell the dog, nope, I want you to stop being nervous. Come along. I am the leader you need. Once you've figured out the dog's body language, you will be able to understand and predict what your dog is going to do next, which is why learning body language is important. We can't look at it piecemeal, all right? All 5 body parts, which are the tail, the shoulders. And when I mean the shoulders, it's the posture of the dog. The ears are important, the positioning of the ears. The eyes, are you seeing squinting eyes? Are you seeing whites of the eye? Or are you seeing a soft eye? What's the mouth like? Is it a stiff mouth? Is there a jowl that you notice? Is there a curvature? All of these things will play a part to understand what the dog's saying. More importantly, you have to know the baseline of the breed. Okay. Now, if you have, in my corporate life, I was always a deal maker. I was in negotiation. So one thing that I always did was I used to look at a human's body language and tell whether I could gauge whether this human is lying through his teeth, or she's bluffing, or she's trying to sort of, pull a fast one on us because of certain micro expressions that people have. Right? Very similarly with dogs. But it's very important for us to know what the baseline is for a dog. What I mean by that is a pointed German Shepherd ear is not something you will find with a floppy Cocker Spaniel. They are 2 very distinct ears. But there is a baseline you have to know. Once you know what the baseline is, which is, yes, my Cocker Spaniel has flat ears. Once you set a baseline, anything where the ears go up, ears get pulled back, ears go a little higher up, down, up their head would mean different things. But for a German Shepherd, ears pulled back, ears down, all of these would mean different things as well. But you have to know what the baseline is for the breed. Just because a German Shepherd's ears are pointed up doesn't mean they're alert all the time. They might be twitching in different angles. It means different things. So know what the baseline is for your breed. Okay, so I'll give you an example here. In this picture is a gorgeous Irish setter. Okay, now this Irish setter is a hunting animal, very similar to your golden retrievers or your Cocker Spaniels. They are hunting dogs. Okay, they are bred to hunt. Now, this is what an Irish setter looks like. Okay, he's just shooting the breeze, I think, or he might be very alert, or he might be a little nervous. I don't know. I'm going to ask you guys. This is an Irish setter. He's a hunting dog. He's a dog that loves to work in packs, and he is bred to sort of walk really long distances, and he's a calmer dog. Now, this is sort of a breed trait, generally, what you see. But looking at these 5 body parts, tell me, what is it that you think this dog is feeling when you see this picture? Okay, tell me why, and also tell me which body part it is that's making you think the way you do, which is, I think this dog is feeling like this because tail is like this, or ears are so, or whatever. Why don't you take a guess, guys? Tell me what this guy is feeling.
Nervous.
He's nervous. Okay. And why would you say he's nervous?
His tail is like bent between his legs. His eyes are a bit moist. He's looking at something very peculiarly, and that's
okay. All
and
right.
Overall body is also like a little bit like in a bent position, sort of.
Okay, understood. So tail is down, you're saying, and eyes are looking far out. Position also looks like he's a little wary. Okay, you've covered 3. What about the mouth? Is the mouth telling you anything?
Yeah, it's like he's drooling or
drooling. Okay.
Yeah. And his ears are also like flattened and falling down.
All right. So Kirti, your guess is that he's a nervous dog.
Yep.
Okay. Any other guesses? Anybody else wants to take a shot at it? Pooja, Akanksha, any idea what this dog might be feeling? Kirti says he's nervous. No? Guys, are you even there? All right. Okay. I will then show you the next slide.
Hi, I'm sorry I'm around, but I won't be able to respond. I'm so sorry.
Okay. All right. So in this picture, you see, again, both these dogs are Irish setters. Okay. The one on the left is what you just saw. Now, the one on the right is also an Irish setter. So now tell me, what do you think the new fellow or new fellow girl is thinking? What is going on in the second picture here?
Alert, curious.
Alert. Okay. And why do you say alert?
The tail is raised above when she is looking at a particular thing with a pointed eye. His ears are also like, the whole structure is in an alert position. So I've seen my dog also, right? When he's standing in the balcony and he's seeing a cow on the roadside, his tail is up. He's like just wanting to bark at her or looking at her in a very strange manner, that who's that thing. So that's
got it. Absolutely. So the reason I put these 2 pictures side by side is it's the same breed. Okay, 2 very different emotions going through the dog, and you will begin to notice how the body language changes. So the first picture that we saw, the dog is not nervous. The dog is absolutely calm. All right. And I'll tell you why that's the case. Now, I said this is a hunting dog. Okay. So an Irish setter was bred to work with the hunter, and the setter itself, the name is where the dog is setting up a hunt. So basically, if there were pheasants or fowls or birds around in bushes, then this dog would sort of encircle the bush or encircle that area and set that prey up for a hunt. And all the hunter had to do was point and shoot. Now, if this is a dog that was going to be the kind with very exuberant body language, much bigger body language stances, like tail up and ears up like a German Shepherd and walking around, he would or she would have intimated the birds that there is a dog coming here. It is a hunting sequence. So even before the dog comes close to the bird has flown away. So you need to have a dog that is very nuanced and subtle in its body language. Okay, you don't want a dog that comes in with exaggerated body language. So the one on the left is actually a very calm Irish setter. And this is the baseline for the breed. It's important for you to know the baseline, because we assume this is a nervous dog because we are equating this dog in our heads to a retriever. If Kirti, you were looking at a retriever, what you've described is exactly right. okay, that this retriever probably would be someone that's bordering on unsureness. Okay, he's not sure how to react. But in this case, not so. Why is that? Because an Irish setter has to appear as small as possible, as blended with the environment as possible. So tail is always along the body. So tail is not down. Tail is just along the body. They don't want to make it very exaggerated in their body language. The second thing, the mouth. Okay, the mouth is actually, you see the U in the mouth. There's a droop along the jowls. That is a very relaxed mouth. Compare that to the dog on the right, where the mouth is actually a straight line. There's no jowl here, which means when we are nervous or we were a little tensed, what do? We grimace. We're like, okay, we are not smiling anymore. Don't have a loose mouth. Our mouths also turn into a straight line. Dogs are very similar. So you see the straight line. You see the ear, the one on the left, the ears are right along the body. It's right beside the head. It's not pulled forward like the one on the right. And the reason that ear has pulled forward is it is focusing on whatever has caught its attention. All right. So left one, ears are along the sides of the head, but ears are pulled forward for the one on the right. Now, if you had a Cocker Spaniel like Pooja does, you'll notice that the Spaniel actually ears are always along the sides of the head, similar to the one on the left. But anytime the Spaniel is a little alert, the ears do pull forward, or the ears go stand up a little, which straightens out, or they kind of pull forward. That is a distinct alert mark, okay, in the dog's body language. The second thing, this loose leg you see on the left, that unless you have a pointer in your dog, a loose leg like this really doesn't mean much. It means the dog's actually very loose in its body stance, okay? It doesn't need to put all four paws very firmly on the ground like the one on the right side. The one on the right, all four paws on the ground. You see that the chest also looks bigger, like this dog is standing up straight, head is sort of along a straight line, neck is elongated. All of these things is when you see an alert dog. So when you're walking your dogs and you see this change in body language, you see the tail sort of stiffen, you see the ears pull up, you see that your dog actually looks bigger than they normally are, get ready for your dog to lunge, for your dog to jump, or for your dog to bark. Okay, because it is the first cue that dogs tell you when they're whole, the head, the neck, the body, the tail, they form a straight line when they're alert, like the one on the right side. You see the one on the left is actually looking a certain way. It's moving to the faces to the left, but the body is straight. Okay, but the one on the right, head, shoulders, body, tail, they're all along a straight line. So anytime you're walking your dogs and you want to know when is my dog going to jump, when is my dog going to sort of pull me or sort of run away, you will notice that the head, neck, shoulders, body, everything forms a straight line. If you see any movement like this, there isn't a chance of a jump or a pull at this point. Your dog is still thinking. But when they form a straight line, you're ready. Brace yourself for impact. Okay, they are ready to get reactive. So that is something you'll have to figure out. Okay, the eyes are one other thing. You see the one on the right side, you see the actual furrows and the the brows are tighter. You see that the contours of the eye are very clear for the one on the right. So it's basically the eye muscles have tensed up. They're not soft like the one on the left because you don't see the contours of the eyes as much on the left. On the right, you certainly do. This is something that's going to take practice. And especially if you had like Shih Tzus or Maltese, eyes are not the best ways to give clues. Some things in some extreme emotions you can, but there are certain breeds you can't discern the difference. But this is something you have to keep an eye out for, right? Ears, mouth being a straight line, eyes being stiff, the body being stiff and looking larger than normal, a stiff tail wag, or a tail that's risen up instead of very loosely on the ground. All of these will indicate alertness.
So I just wanted to share one experience. So whenever we have Woof is outdoors, so if he sees a dog who is a friend, he will lie down on the ground and wait for him to come towards him. And he'll keep lying down on the road. So once the dog is there, after like 5 to 10 seconds, then he'll be super enthu and going round and round and try to obviously play with him. If he sees a random dog or an indie, anyone, he's least bothered. Then he moves ahead. So what's the reason of lying down on the ground and then waiting for him to come to him? And so is it a submissive behavior or is it?
It rather than submissive, it's basically a behavior where the dog is telling the other dog, listen, I'm no threat to you. So it's not submissive like, oh, I'm not going to hurt you, please don't hurt me. It's not that vulnerable submissiveness, but this is basically a form of saying, I am calm, I am not being alert, I'm not being, any sort of, I'm not intimidating you in any form or fashion.
So once the dog comes to him, the other dog will obviously sniff him, and after like few seconds, then Woofy will be like full on all over him.
I think an interesting exercise for you will be to see what the approaching dog's body language is. If the dog that is coming towards him doesn't make eye contact towards Woofy, or is the kind of dog that as soon as he looks at Woofy, he sort of turns the body, even if it's a subtle one, this dog will sort of move away from Woofy, then you might see that Woofy just doesn't even react to that dog. Because the other dog is basically saying, I don't care much about you. So Woofy going down or Woofy being very calm and patient with the other dog is pointless because the other dog's already told him not interested. If it's a friend approaching, the other dog might actually pull a little more. The other dog might actually have a very loose wagging tail and a soft mouth. Those are indications to Woofy that, okay, this is friend, not a foe. And maybe I'm also interested to see more about where this is going to go.
Exactly.
So it really comes down to, it's a two-way street. It's not just your dog. You also need to observe the other dogs that they react to. Yeah.
Understood.
Any questions, Pooja, Akanksha, feel free to stop me. So Akanksha, in your case, the next slide will be important for you to know. Okay. So this is quite obvious, evident what the dogs are thinking and feeling. But any guesses what's going on here? What are these dogs feeling at this point?
They are afraid.
I can't hear you clearly, Akanksha. What was that?
Feeling like apprehensive that I don't know why is this person coming into my space, and like I don't know what the situation is going to be ahead. So more like a little cautious and just trying to understand whether to react or not react.
Okay, cautious. Okay, you're saying cautious. Got it. Akanksha, what were you trying to say?
They are looking like they are afraid or confused.
Afraid. Okay, and why would you say that? What makes you say that this dog looks afraid or cautious? What
ears
is the
and
body?
tail.
Ears and tail. So ears, yes. What about the ears being like ears are pulled back? You see all four dogs, the ears are actually stretching behind the dog's head. Big giveaway. You're right. Tail, I think the bottom two ones are down, right?
And the eyes are open up widely.
Exactly. So the eyes are a big giveaway here. This is actually a very nervous, anxious dog. Okay, all four of them are exhibiting signs of anxiety and nervousness. So every single picture you see here is something that our dogs would have shown to us at some point or the other. Okay, we'll start from the top left. A lot of my clients also do this. Okay, they send me pictures and videos of their dogs where their kids are being very friendly and they're playing. They're like, thank you so much. My dog is now very friendly with kids. And I'm like, stop it right now. Your dog is not being friendly with a child. If I see a picture like this, your dog is actually telling your child a very important thing, which is back off. I don't like this. So what is the giveaway? See the mouth? Is there a jowl? Do you see a curve in any of these dogs' mouths? Everything is a stiff, straight line. Not a single dog you can see the jowl here. Okay. And every single dog bred on earth has a jowl, some more distinct than the others, but there's no dog that comes bred with a straight line. Okay. So that's one thing. Second thing, you see the whites of the dog's eye. So whenever I say, are you seeing the whites of the eye? It's basically the dog taking a very, very timid stance saying, I'm not making eye contact with you. I'm actually looking away. I don't want to even look at that something that is threatening me at this point, which is why you see the whites of the eye towards whatever is threatening them. Okay, so seeing the whites is a big giveaway. Of course, the ear pulled back, and the ones where you see the tail, you see the tails are down, not necessarily tucked between the legs. It's not always the case where a really nervous dog tail goes down between the legs. Extreme emotions, yes, the tail will go between the legs. But another important clue is the dog's body. Remember, the posture is also something that you've got to pay attention to. The dog is actually leaning away from whatever it is that's causing it discomfort. So in the child's case, child is hugging the dog, but the dog is actually moving away. All right. And generally, when we have somebody come into our personal space that we don't like, our instinct is also to move away from that person. And the dogs exhibit the same things, no difference there. The one on the bottom right, on the grassy patch, you see that finger pointing at the dog. This is us when we're generally scolding our dogs, right? Saying, no, bad job, stop that. What does the dog do at that point? It kind of moves away from that finger, and it wants to make itself look as small as possible. Ears are pulled back. And a lot of people I see nowadays, especially social media, is just rampant with this. They're like, see, my dog is so guilty. They know they're doing something wrong, and this is what he knows it's doing something wrong. I'm like, no, the dog is exhibiting this behavior because you are making the dog very nervous. The whole point of dog moving away and looking up and looking away, it's like, oh boy, this human is being overreactive again. I don't know what this human's thinking. Their energy levels are not calm. Human energy levels are all over. And that drives a lot of nervousness and anxiety in our dogs. Okay, so it is important for us to sort of keep a check on our emotions as well. And I will talk about that briefly, but it's important for us to know, how are we in reference to the dog? Are we in the dog's in personal space? Are we taking something that the dog values a lot? Are we scaring the dog? Or are we being too friendly with the dog? All of these matter. Now for you, Pooja, one thing I would want you to teach, especially a child, even at 3 months, 6 months of age, is to seek permission from the dog. And it's not about my hand is outstretched and all of, no. It's about, even if your child has the dog in its personal space, we've got to teach the child, I'm right here, but you can touch the dog, sort of caress the dog's sides, not the heads, never the heads. Never ever teach a child to touch a dog's head. Okay. But you've got to caress the side of the face or the side of the body. Do it 2 times and then pause, which means the hand of the child goes away. If your dog enjoys it or likes it, they will move towards the child's hand, sort of nudge or sort of lean into the child. And when your dog says, yes, I like what you're doing, encourage the child to caress a couple more times again. But every 2 times you have to stop and seek the dog's permission. This isn't necessarily the case for children, even us adults. It comes very naturally to me when I have a dog. A lot of what people do, dog lovers do, they bend down and they're like, hi, you're so cute, yeah. My instinct, my training has told me, whenever I see a dog, although every single fiber of my body wants to go and say hi to the dog, I control myself. I don't interact with the dog. I interact with the human first. And if the dog is curious, dog is interested in saying hello, dog wants to befriend me, I wait for the dog to approach me, to sniff me first. And once the dog sniffed me, I just use the 2, back fingers of backs of my fingers, and I just caress the dog's face or the sides of the dog's body. And I just do it a couple of times. If the dog likes it, they come back, they nudge my hand and say, again, do it again. But every time I meet a dog, even my own, okay, I make sure I seek the dog's permission. Most of the times, dogs are scared, are nervous, they get spooked easily because they are very sensitive about their spaces. And when we go in constantly into their space and we sort of don't pay any attention to their cues, which is, I don't like this, get away from me, that's when they start snapping. That's when they start growling. That's when a lot of the misbehaviors start. So keep a check on your emotions as well. Okay, this answers, Pooja, your question about playing roughhouse. Sometimes the playing roughhouse could have also happened in a time when the dog wasn't comfortable. And then the dog realizes that, yeah, these body languages don't work. I'd rather just snap. Okay. Not all dogs do that, but some do. Some begin to understand that I have given enough cues to this human. The human has not picked it up. I've just got to snap now. And if I snap or I bark or I growl, this human is going to understand and this danger walks away. So that's when we see a lot of these child bites, especially when they're like, oh, this dog bit a child, man. Half the time, it's the child's fault. Okay, not half, majority of the time, because children don't know how to engage with dogs. They don't understand how to approach dogs. They don't understand how to read body language. And it comes down to us to teach them the right, appropriate way of interacting. Okay. One other thing is about body language, which is a very common question that people have. Okay. Is my dog sad? A lot of people, especially now that they've started going back to work, okay, they keep saying, my dog is sad. No, my dog is so sad that I go away. I'm like, why do you feel like that? My dog is howling and my dog whines all the time. I'm like, that's not being sad. Your dog is then displaying signs of anxiety. If your dog is sad, there's no body language of the dog. How the dog displays sadness is by showing absolutely no interest in things they really enjoy doing. It could be, my dog doesn't want to go on a walk anymore. My dog's very low on appetite, like not interested in eating anymore. My dog doesn't bring its toys anymore for me to play with. When your dog starts exhibiting these behaviors, then yes, your dog is possibly feeling low or feeling sad. Time for a medical checkup. And if everything looks okay, time for you to start rebuilding your relationship with your dog. Sometimes having no engagement with our dogs drives them to this also, right? Is my dog happy? Of course your dog will be happy, because you'll see that very loose tail. Dog will come, drop all their toys in front of you. They'll come and sometimes body block you. They'll come and push you and say, come on, man, let's play. They'll stand in front of you and with a very loose tail will look at you with big puppy eyes and bark, right? All of these things is a sign that my dog's happy. My dog wants to engage with me. My dog is still showing interest in normal activities, right? Wonderful thing for your dog to see. Is my dog feeling guilty? Is a question. The answer is an absolute 100% no. Like I showed in the picture, dogs don't even have the prefrontal cortex where they can even emote the feelings of guilt or shame. What they do demonstrate is a feeling of anxiety and nervousness. And so when you point your fingers, you yell at a dog, or you sort of, drag them by their collars, you do all of these things, that's when your dog starts begin to feel nervousness or anxiety. They don't feel guilt. So whenever you see that ears pulled back, body leaning away, whites of the dog's eyes, stiff mouth, low tail, all of that is an indication that your dog is feeling nervous, not guilty. Okay, so that's one thing. I will talk about this right after I finish this slide. But does my dog love me? Is a lot of times people come and ask me this, especially people who have, sort of brought in dogs through rescued means. So the dog would have had multiple homes, and the dogs come into their home and they're doubting it. They're like, does my dog really like me? We haven't bonded enough, all of those questions. The answer is yes, through body language. What does the dog want to do? Dog will want to physically touch you at all times. They want to be constantly touching you, right? Like Kirti, you said your dog is your shadow, always lying around you, wants to be next to you. That's a sign that your dog enjoys your company, right? They feel safe and secure in you. Some tiny dogs will also jump up on the lap, and sometimes, in a very submissive manner, will sort of lick your face also. Again, it's a form of saying, I like you. I mean no harm to you. Let's play. Right? So all of these are indications that the dog's actually displaying some sort of affection towards you. Some dogs don't want to be touched, right? There are some dogs who will show that they really like you by sitting from a distance, and they just watch you. Wherever you go, you see that their eyes are on you. That is also a way of dogs communicating they like you. And not every dog will want to be hugged and kissed and, being cuddled all the time. Some are very distant, very aloof. And my previous dog was a pit bull, and that guy hated it when I would come and hug him. But he would always sit in one corner of the room and just watch. And there were times when he'd want to be caressed, he would come and then he would just show his butt towards me, and I had to give him a butt scratch. That's as far as we would go, right? After that, he's doing his thing. But I knew that he had come, he'd said, hey, I like you, let's interact. And then he went back to do his thing. So respect that. The dogs I have now, they're pretty much on my face all the time. They want to be held and cuddled and carried and licked and all of that. Dogs are different. They will show their emotions very differently, right? But how do I show love to my dog? Like I said, scratching favorite parts of the body, right? Seeking permission of the dog without sort of putting ourselves in the dog's face and forcing ourselves on the dog. We will find ways to play with the dog, right? Play a game of fetch, play a game of tug, gently pet the dog, seek permission of the dog, right? That is important for us to show. It's our body language that will demonstrate to the dog that we're very comfortable around you. We really mean no harm to you, right? But these are important things for you to understand and for you to be aware of. Okay. Any questions, guys? I've been talking nonstop, so feel free to interrupt. Yeah.
So the point is my dog feeling guilty, right? So there are moments, obviously, you scold your dog. So when he's doing something wrong, does it really work when we're scolding him? Because whenever I try to scold Woofy, either he will lie down beside me near my foot, or he'll try to lick me.
Yes.
And after 5 minutes, he will again do the bad behavior wala thing.
Correct. So no, scolding a dog, just scolding doesn't help. Saying no is absolutely essential. Your dog needs to learn the word no. If not no, you have to make a sound that tells us, communicates with the dog that I don't like what you're doing. But very quickly after that, you need to follow up with Woofy and tell him what you want him to do instead.
So for example, if if I'm working on my laptop, right, and he wants to play, he will come and he'll try to grab my hand, right? And if I sternly say him no, he will either come back again after 5 minutes and grab my hand, or he will just lie down beside me with a very sad face that what I've done to him. And
okay, then I'll ask you what is the next thing you do?
Either I give him a toy or I just completely ignore it.
Okay. And what happens is there a difference? So this is like programming, okay? If there's an if then else kind of loop that you have to build. Now, if you have ignored him, then does Woofy continue sleeping by your side? Or else does he sort of get up and go bring another toy? Or does he not give up until he has your attention? What does he do?
I would say it's a 50-50 scenario.
Okay.
At times he will come again and again and grab my hand. If I give him a toy, he'll play with the toy. If I completely ignore him, he'll lie down.
Got it. Okay. So some things that I think, it really depends on teaching a dog the rules of the house when you're working. So this is something that I would normally do. While I was working on my laptop and I do not want to be disturbed, I would actually have a station for my dog where I would tell my dog bed. My dog's on the bed, but I would give my dog something to do, which is if I want to be uninterrupted, I know it's not my dog's sleeping time. My dog's actually alert at this point and I'm going to be busy, not able to engage with my dog. I had to make sure it was my job to make sure that my dog had a job to do. So in my case, what I would do was if my dog was alert, say I used to work California hours. So in the evenings around 7:30 or so, I'd start getting busy and that's my dog's witching hour. She'd want to play at that time. So what we would do was generally take the dog out for a walk around that time. Or another thing that I would do was I'd give her a frozen Kong. A Kong that was filled with a little mashed bananas and peanut butter on it and freeze it. And once frozen, I would give it to her. So she would be on her bed and she would be going after that Kong. It would take her a good 15-20 minutes, fantastic mental exercise, but it's undisturbed time for both of us. And it's not like I have completely disengaged with her. She is working on something that I have given her. I gave her a job to do, which was a part of your meal is in that Kong. You've got to eat, work for your meal, right? Every time I gave her a job to do, after that, she was a much calmer dog. She wouldn't come to me seeking attention at that point. Actually much calmer. She'd settle down and sometimes even take a nice long nap for an hour or so after that. So at those times when you know you can't engage the dog, you have to be ready with alternative things for your dogs to do. Okay. And that could be Kongs. It could be sniffing games around the house, which is I generally tell parents 1 meal a day. Okay. While you're still training your dog's behaviors, at least one meal a day, your dog has to work for that meal, which means you could leave, if you're feeding your dog kibble, kibble is strewn around the house and the dog's job is to keep sniffing and picking it up and working towards their meals. It could be playing a game of fetch. For a retriever, fantastic breed stimulation. For a spaniel, it could also be sniffing games, and it could also be playing a game of frisbee even. They enjoy that because spaniels are flushers.
Yeah, he loved his frisbee. He loved his frisbee so much that I have lost 10
Yes.
over the past 10 months.
All right. But you know what? You're feeding the breed instinct. If you know about the spaniel, they're flushers, which means they were dogs. They are hunting dogs again. Don't be fooled by their sizes. They need at least an hour and a half worth of walking every day. And 2 hours actually is what I would say is a good amount of time. And they have to learn to play these games like frisbees. They don't play fetch much, but frisbee is a good game to play. Having them chase around flirt poles. And I'll tell you what that is. These are good games for you to play with your dogs. The more you stimulate the dog's breed, the lesser misbehaviors you will see in your dog. What happens in most cases is people don't stimulate the dog's breed. For instance, Kirti, in your case, if you have a retriever at home and you play zero fetch and you think just walking is enough for him, it has done nothing. If you had a beagle and you would walk the dog for half an hour in a day and then you wouldn't do anything with the dog, don't be fooled by their sizes. Spaniels, beagles, Dachshunds, they are not dogs that are bred to live in tiny apartments. They are dogs that require phenomenal amount of physical exercise. They're very smart dogs. You've got to keep that engagement going. They're not meant for tiny Maltese Shih Tzu kind of lifestyles. All right. So at this point in time, you need to figure out what the breed stimulation is. Akanksha, in your case, you have an indie. This game is going to help you, and this is going to help most of you guys also. Have you guys seen what a flirt pole of cats? It's like a long stick with a feather on one end, and I don't know if you've seen these cats that kind of play with the feather and they try to get hold of the feather, all of that. Very similar concept, but with dogs. What I do is I take a long stick, okay? One end of the stick I tie with the dog's favorite toy. It could be a squeaky toy, it could be a ball, it could be a sock with a ball in it, anything. I don't want you going around and buying stuff. Even old mop sticks, I generally use that. I use my old mop stick and tie a toy on one end. And all I do is twice a day for 10 minutes. I'm not even asking you to spend an enormous amount of time. Twice a day, 10 minutes. I want you to take that stick and keep moving it very quickly on the ground. So the toy is moving very quickly on it. Now, why this is important is because that toy on the ground moving very quickly appears like prey to most of our dogs, right? And their instincts, especially indies, they're sight hounds. They're dogs that are visually stimulated. They hunt whatever that they see moving, right? If you have an indie, fantastic game to play with them. If you have a terrier mix, so if you have a pit bull or you have any of the Wolfshire, whatever terriers you have, works wonders for them. Dachshunds, spaniels also, they will love to chase that toy. And their only goal is to pounce on it, to hold on to the toy. If they put their mouths on it, great. Play a game of tug, ask them to drop it, restart the game again. This is important for you to do because it also builds the dog's
But
confidence.
Malvika, for Cinnamon, playing a game of tug means he's going to snatch it from you. And then you have to chase him to get that toy from him.
Yes.
He does not understand the concept of, okay, now give it to me so I can throw it again.
Correct. So that is what you'll have to teach him, right? Fetch, or playing that game where a dog needs to learn to put something in its mouth, come back to you and drop it. Fetch is actually an advanced command. It's 3 commands together. It is asking the dog to wait. It is asking the dog to come back once the toy has been thrown, and then teaching the dog to drop that toy, right? These 3 commands are the integral parts of fetch. If your dog has understood that every time something's in my mouth, there's a game of chase that happens, your dog won't learn how to fetch, right? You've got to teach your dog that if you're running away with that thing in your mouth, this human is walking away. There is no game happening here. So every time your dog picks up something not dangerous in their mouths and they start running away, all you have to do is say, no, and I'm out. I go into another room. The dog is going to be surprised because what's going on here? Why is this person going away? They should have been chasing my tail by this time, but they're not. the dogs do get curious. They might play with that object for a couple of seconds or maybe even 10 seconds, not more than that. But when you're in another room, okay, and you are in their heads doing something far more interesting, they are going to follow you. As soon as they come into the room, that's when they're like, yes, what a good boy. In which time I want you to have a treat or another toy ready, because that is going to teach your dog, drop whatever's in your mouth, and I'm going to give you something else to do instead. So it's
But
important for you to teach your dog that chasing is not the end.
I'm sorry. Do
Yeah.
you do the same thing? So, like for Cinnamon, if he runs away with something, so now I realize that it's an attention-seeking thing. I said, just don't run behind him. Just stop it. Like if he takes a mask, let him take it. He's gonna get bored of it in literally 5 minutes. But then what he'll do is he will drop it and he will try to walk towards you. It's not like he's gonna get that mask to you or give it back to you. He's just gonna drop that. And if you're quick enough to pick it up, you are. If he sees that someone's coming to pick that up, he's gonna go again and saying, okay. I know you were trying to pick up my thing.
Correct. So this is what you have to do. When you say, I'm not going to chase you anymore, you've already seen that Cinnamon's curious. He's not going to go after it. He wants to come towards you. If you're just sitting there being boring, which is you don't have another alternative toy to play with, or you're not giving him an alternative job, which is go get your toy or go down or go to bed, whatever it is. If you don't give him an alternate thing to do, he is going to go back to whatever it is he was doing. He's come to you. He's given you the attention. Praise him. Whenever he drops that mask and starts walking towards you, as soon as he drops, like, yes, what a good boy. And then call him to you. Calling him to you means he comes to you and he has to be rewarded for that come. It doesn't always have to be a treat. It can be a toy. It can be a game of tug. It can be any of that. But you have to reward him for choosing to drop that object and coming to you. And recall, that's why teaching a dog come is so important. And the third thing about drop it, I generally tell parents, how do you teach a dog to drop? It's basically by training. And I very rarely tell parents use a treat, okay, to teach a dog to drop something. I generally tell parents, I am trading toys whenever I teach my dog to drop, which means if my dog already has something in its mouth, I say, pick another toy that is very similar to what they have. And I tell parents, if you're teaching a dog to drop, take 2 tug ropes, 2 balls, 2 frisbees, 2 very similar things. Okay. Throw something so your dog goes and gets it. As soon as that thing is in the dog's mouth, you show the second toy. You're like, hey, look what I have. Bounce the ball, play tug with the rope, whatever it is. The dog gets excited, comes to you. And as soon as the dog comes to you and drops that object, you say, yes, what a good boy, drop it. And then you play again. It's rinse and repeat. Now, if your dog doesn't come to you so well, stay closer to the dog. Trade off much closer. So even if your dog is right, maybe about 2 feet away, you still have enough proximity where the dog can come towards you and take whatever's in your hand. Right? So set the dog up for success. Always trade toys when you're teaching a dog to drop it. Just saying, no, drop it. The dog has no clue what you're trying to do. Right? They are just thinking, great, human is barking with me. Fantastic, we're playing right now. But we have to teach them what they have to do instead. Lovely that you're actually stopping to
the
chase
funniest
them.
thing I've heard all day.
Sorry?
Human barking with me is the funniest thing I've heard all day. I'm just now thinking from Cinnamon's point of view. He's like, oh, lovely, the human is barking with me.
Yes. Which is what happens when you have guests come over. What is it that typically happens? Dog is bark. And we are telling the dog, stop it. No, Cinnamon, Woofy, no, stop it. Coco, come. All of these things. Dog is thinking, great, bark. Cinnamon, Coco, Woofy, bark. Like, great. There's a barking fest going on right now. I'm going to go bark even harder. Instead, you'll have to teach your dog there is an alternative thing for you to do. Yes, bark, because that's the breed instinct. That's what the dog is bred to do. Bark a couple of times. Walk with the dog to the door. Say, yes, good boy, come on, let's go. Let's go. You've encouraged the dog to chase after you to go into another part of the house because you have allowed them to be a dog. First thing, you've let them bark. Okay, give them a chance to bark 4 or 5 times and then tell them something else to do, which is I'll tell you what I did in the next class. Actually, this is something I'm going to talk about, but it is about teaching your dog the right way to greet a visitor. And it's not about teaching the dog sit down, stay. No, it's not at all that. But it's about teaching your dog what is something that the visitor will really like, or something that you are going to enjoy doing whenever somebody comes into the house, right? So those are important things you have to teach the dog. It's more behavior modification, less so obedience, but teaching the dog more behaviors, right? Better behaviors to do instead, without
वो
curbing.
बच्चों को देख के तो बहुत ज्यादा बार करने लग जाता है कि हमारे यहाँ
Yes.
गेस्ट आए हुए
So
थे
particularly for you, Akanksha, there is something I want you to practice. Okay. Actually, let me tell you right now what it is. And this is the same, Pooja, even in your case. I know your baby is really young. Don't do this now, but probably by the time you have a 7-8 month old at home, this is a good exercise for you to play. And Kirti, in your case also, if there are people that Woofy reacts poorly to, you see sometimes if the gas cylinder man comes in or a security guard comes in, a very friendly dog actually reacts poorly, or a postman, all of these things.
Yeah, you can actually tell traits. Like we realize Cinnamon does not like anybody with the bag. So if you get a bag, I think
the
he
dog
thinks
will
it's
run away.
vet. Yeah, I think he thinks it's his vet. So he just like does not like anybody with the bag.
Yes.
So if it's a
So-
courier guy, someone's gonna come for the TV. So we tell them, please keep your bag on the side. You stand for some time and then he'll be fine.
So
Exactly.
in his case, he never barks inside the house. He has never barked outside the house also.
Very good. That's a typical
has-
retriever.
He has only barked from a balcony while he was seeing a cow for the first time. That's about it. So
Yeah,
whenever someone comes to a house, he never barks. He just wants to be pet. He just wants to be loved. That's about it.
Excellent. That is a very typical retriever thing. You
Right.
won't see a lot of other breeds do it, because a retriever is a hunting dog. Again, it's called a gun dog. And
Mm.
why is it called a gun dog? Because if the dog was hunting with a hunter, this dog is very quiet.
Mm.
Okay. Now the setter, the beagle, the spaniel, the greyhounds, they've all been part of hunting. They're far away from the hunter. They're actually doing the hunting bit. Okay. So they're very independent breeds. They don't want to be around a human at all time. But the retriever is very different, because they're
And he just wants to meet everyone.
constantly by the hunter's side. They're just waiting for the hunter's gun to go off. That's why they're called gun dogs. They're very quiet this entire time. They don't disturb the hunter. Okay. As soon as the gun goes off, this retriever runs towards whatever the hunter shot and retrieves it for him.
Mm.
Right. That's why they're mouthy dogs. They like to put their mouths on everything, but they also have soft mouths. They never kill or break the prey. They bring it exactly how it was shot down to the hunter. So that's why you have a very quiet dog. They don't bark. If they bark, they'll scare that prey away.
Mm.
Okay. And once the gun has been shot, they already have a mouth that's full of prey. So they don't bark even for that. So they're a very quiet breed. Okay. But high energy breed again, because they are with the hunter walking hours and hours on end. So with these kinds of things, you'll have to learn how do you work with the dog. So in case you have a nervous dog, okay, or you have a dog that is reactive to a certain kind of human, there is one exercise that I call a treat and retreat. So Akanksha, are you there? Are you listening? I want you to
Yes.
practice this. Okay. Very important for you to do this multiple times in a day. Okay. And at least 6 attempts in one session. So by that, I mean any command you're going to train your dogs, important for you to do this. Have 6 consecutive successful attempts. And only then can you say, okay, today's training is done. Okay, so I don't want your training sessions to be more than 10 minutes long at each time. Anything more than 10 minutes, guys, you've lost your dogs. They're not going to pay attention to you. All training sessions should be less than 10 minutes, but make sure you have 6 successful attempts in those 10 minutes. Okay, and what I want you to do here is I want you to take the treat, okay, and say you have a child that is able to cooperate with you, Akanksha. One of the things I want you to do is have the child have some treats, okay? They stand about 3-4 feet away from the dog, and the child just throws a treat towards the dog. There's nothing else the child does, okay? All you have to do, and I have one of my dogs is a super nervous, anxious dog. And the way I built her confidence was doing this particular exercise. Kids will love to help you. Okay. When you tell a child, listen, come, no, you have to help to train my dog. All the children will line up in your neighborhood saying, I want to help auntie. Okay, so use that.
नहीं, हमारे यहाँ पर कोई भी नहीं आता है क्योंकि ये कोको बात करने लग जाता है और पीछे भागने लग जाता है बच्चों के।
Okay.
अभी कुछ दिनों पहले गेस्ट आए हुए थे हमारे यहाँ, तो वो बच्चों पर अटैक कर रहा था उनके, तो उसको अलग रूम में रखा था।
Okay, so don't do this. If even if it's not a child, if you can find someone, 16, 18 years old, in your case, it's anybody, right? That Coco reacts poorly to. I want this person to stand 3-4 feet away, throw a treat at Coco. Okay, don't move. That person should not move. That person should not talk to Coco. That person should not bend down towards Coco. This is what I call be a tree. I am standing there very stoically. I am not moving. I'm not talking to the dog. I'm not touching the dog. I'm not even looking at the dog. But I have a treat. I've just thrown it towards the dog. Now it's Coco's choice to come towards the treat. Sometimes he won't even pick up the treat, but there'll be one day when he will come, he will just bend a little closer to the treat, even just to smell it even. Whenever he does that, I want you, Akanksha, to say, yes, what a good boy, Coco. Thank you for not barking, but thank you for sniffing the treat instead. So this is what it's called, treat and retreat. That is, the dog will come towards the treat and quickly walk back. It will retreat because it's like, oh, I'm going towards this person I'm very scared of. Okay. But even if Coco comes 6 times towards the treat and moves away, great. You have had a successful training attempt. It's a huge thing for Coco that he has realized by walking towards this human being, I've actually not been attacked. I haven't been talked to. I haven't been threatened. I haven't been yelled at. I haven't been pushed. Nothing has happened. This person's just standing there. And great, look, a treat also fell my way. Right?
ये
So the
सब
dog
घर
comes
के ही अंदर करेंगे क्योंकि वो बाहर तो जाता ही नहीं है।
anywhere. You can do it anywhere you want.
Okay.
This is not restricted to outdoors or indoors. First job for you is to get Coco comfortable around this one human being. Okay. That same human being, after 2-3 days successfully doing the treat retreat, if Coco eats the treat, even better. Celebrate it even more. Tell him, yes, what a good boy. But that human doesn't talk. Okay. They're just standing there. Then the same thing has to happen outdoors. Don't do this outdoors in the very first day. Okay, do it in a place where Coco is more comfortable, feels safer. Then you can go outdoors to do this. But the treat and retreat, I want you to do this at least 3 times in a day for no more than 10 minutes at a time. So I'm looking at a half an hour window for you to train him the entire day. Okay, so it's not like you're putting him through enormous stress either. He should be comfortable doing this. Okay, so these are things that I want you to practice. It's a treat and retreat. Every time somebody comes in, a treat comes your way, fantastic. I will sniff it, sometimes maybe eat it, and I walk away. Don't scare the dog. Don't pull them towards that human being.